What's up, guys? Tony here. Sorry for the awkward. I was thinking, oh, should I have, should I sit up? I just couldn't get the right camera angle, so this is what we're working with. Also, I'm getting drained out talking about drain. If that makes any sense. Maybe it doesn't. This stuff's very interesting to me, but to think about a lot of stuff, it can get kind of tiring. But, anyways. Let me get into my analysis or my understanding of the rest of the Rainworld project, okay? So before I uploaded part 1, this is going to be part 2. And let's just hop right into it. Part 2 is Subaru. Lost a couple thousands, it means nothing to me. Nothing is a very, it's an important theme in Blade's music. In Spider, he calls himself King Nothing. Or no, not in Spider. No, Spider, he has a song called Nothing with Wanda Mountain. He calls himself King Nothing in a few songs, but I mainly remember it from Hotel Breakfast, right? And so you have to think about, that's such an interesting idea. You're the king of nothing, Embedded in the definition of king, it's always going to be a king of something, but when you say you're king nothing, it doesn't even make sense. Like, you would have to be king something, but he's the king of nothing. And so that's a theme or motif that he explores, throughout his discography. I bury all those feelings in the darkness of me, so many shields on me that you look harmless to me. This is again bringing up the idea of shield gang. This ideology, this philosophy, we're going to use it as a shield to block ourselves from the darkness of the world, right? But she's not looking at me. In the darkness in me, you look harmless to me. So he's noticing, this is more getting into the relationship side of Blade, when he says she's not looking at me, and that she looks harmless, but there's harm in what he doesn't see, and this may be like him feeling bad about a past relationship or something like that. Like, they initially, these girls or whoever he's talking about seem harmless, but then he tries to hide his tears when in near bad atmosphere. He can't reveal his deeper self to these, to anyone, really. So how does he mask his tears? With the shield. That's why he's shield gang, with this ideology. But also it's connected with imagery around his clothing. Blade, as we know, he likes to talk about, I hit Dior, I wear Saint Laurent, I wear Gucci, all this stuff. I don't know if he ever says Gucci. Maybe, probably. But this is all a shield that's masking his true self, which he thinks is very depressed, sad, dark, and it not just he thinks it, that's how he is, that's how he feels, right? Lost all essence, counting 3 blessings. So again, this is, and we'll get more into this with 333 when I eventually get there, but 3 blessings, okay? The number 3 is important. Lost all essence. He lost his being, Echo 2K and Mirage says, in this body now, I'm a prisoner. He doesn't know what it is to be anymore. And that's a really interesting concept. And in one of my lyrics in my songs, I say I'm bad at being. How can you be bad at being? Just sitting there, existing, doing nothing? Well, apparently Blade's bad at it. He's always got to do something. But what he wants to work towards is that kind of like, I'm just going to do nothing. And that will bring balance, between the dark and the light, between the gains and the losses, right? I know of 3 heavens, I want to see 7. Again, he's just bringing up these biblical numbers, This person on The Genius has a whole thing about, the 3 heavens, right? So again, that one's more just straightforward. He knows the 3 heavens, I want to see 7. He wants there to be multiple forms of paradises, I guess, rather than just restrict it to 3. I don't really know a whole lot about that line. I guess I'd have to think a little bit more about it. But in the chorus, he says, "Everywhere I got new gear, never used it." So it's almost like, I think the gear he's talking about is the shield. Like, before he would not use the shield. He wouldn't protect himself from the darkness with, this movement of shield gang, And that's why it's hard to, like, if someone said, well, just define shield gang in a second, or in a sentence, you wouldn't be able to do it. You would have to explain, like, oh, no, it's based off of Christian ideology, Gnosticism, a little bit of Buddhism, all of this stuff mixed in, makes Blade who he is and makes his music who he is, right? C section, razor blade lesson. Razor blades are just like blades, like they're sharp on both sides. Earlier we were talking about like knife. Like a knife, if you're typically thinking about it, has one sharp side, but a razor blade has 2 sharp sides. And he says C section. Now, I looked at the genius here for this point. Oh, maybe it got taken down. Someone said, "Oh, Blade, confirmed was a C-section baby." That very may be true, or it may not be true at all. But what I think he's saying C-section for is he wants to give us the imagery of like he was cut out of his mother's womb, and that's how he was born. In the Other Side song on Cold Visions, he said, "Out of fear, a child is born." So imagine if the baby could feel fear in that moment, getting opened up, and then taken out of its home, out of its womb, I think that's an interesting image, or that's interesting imagery that Blade provides us in the song, right? Final storm, final frontier, so I disappear. He's saying that when the world needs him most, he's going to be gone. When the final storm happens, when we're at the end, when we're at the peak, when we're at the crest, we don't need him anymore. He's just guiding us to where he's already been. That may not make a whole lot of sense. It makes sense to me, but again, this is why I needed to take a couple day breather talking about Drain Gang, is because there's so much to unpack, So, let us move on to the next song, which is Unlovable. Interesting. I don't believe I've ever heard this one. I'm gonna have to go back and check it. I guess I can look at the lyrics though. Lyrics from Snippet. Black jeans, black tee. So he's dressing, only Blade can talk about the night. That's what he says on Other Side. So he wears black jeans and a black tee. He's totally black. He's totally in the dark, right? Too bad now, only want to dance. I wear black on the outside because black is how I feel on the inside. Okay, again. And then he just repeats inside feel on the... It probably was a bigger song, but this I think is just pretty straightforward, right? I'm wearing on the outside what I feel on the inside. And I try to do that too. I think some people might just, they talk about, oh, this rapper does this rap about fancy, expensive clothes, But, and for a lot of rappers, that is true because it's very, like, one-dimensional. They're just trying to flex on us, But with Blade, the reason I think it's different is because what he's wearing is what he is feeling on the inside. It's not just like he's trying to be cool, or if he is just trying to be cool, that's because on the inside he wants to be cool, right? But he'll just wear, at least in the lyrics, whenever he mentions certain brand names or designer names, he is very intentional about it, and I think there's probably more to be unpacked with that. But I gotta put this on my list. I didn't realize there was a snippet that was that short that I don't know a whole lot about Rainworld. I've listened to several tracks um, on Rainworld without even knowing they were part of Rainworld. So I guess it's still unconfirmed what the official list is. But if we move on to Everything Can Go. Wow, I've never heard of this. Huh. Well, part two is not going to be as good as part one because I haven't seen some of these snippets. This is apparently pretty rare stuff. I don't know where to go in the city. In the city. Go, go, go in the streets you go. I believe in Spider, in the I'm Crazy song, he says, like, sweep the streets or sweep, sweep, something with the feet. So, whenever he talks about streets and he says, I don't know where to go in the city, what are you thinking about when you think of a city and streets? Well, you think about a lot of things. You think about the buildings, think about the signs, and that's interesting that he says, I don't know where to go in the city. He has so many choices of places to go, but he doesn't know where to go. Should he follow his heart? Should he listen to his friend about where to go in the city? There's all these signs, different businesses and stuff like that in this city, but he doesn't know where to go. And, if you think of a city like New York, there's trash everywhere. And I think Blade is also, maybe not in this song particularly, but when he gets more into the symbolism behind trash, like that we all have trash, but he's a trash star because he found a way to process, any emotional or bad baggage, his trash. He found a way to bring light out of that, But sometimes he jumps right back into the trash. That sucks. Anyways, riding around with my team, getting really stoned. Think you're hot, you're not, turn you into snow. I'm in winter mode, kiss me through the phone. I'm just checking Genius here. It says Soulja Boy reference, It's interesting when you take it into Blade's specific context and he says stuff like, no touching, I find it disgusting. He doesn't even want to kiss the girl IRL. He wants to do it through the phone, But I guess we can't really give Blade the full credit for that. It would go to Soulja Boy. Shout out Soulja Boy. Hope his video game console is selling well that he ripped off. Everything can go. Everything can go. He repeats it many times. I've got problems though, you already know. I already know. Tell me where you want to go. So here, he's in the city. There's all these signs and all these places saying, hey, come here, come here, come here. But what does he do? Does he listen to himself? No, because he says, I don't know where to go. So who does he trust? He trusts his girl, his lover, right? Never growing broke, but all of my things are gone. Blade has a lyric, I believe from Cold Visions. He's like, money never made me happy, but it never made me sad. So he's, at this point, when Rainworld was coming out, I don't think he was super well known, but he at least knew how to make money apart from his music, right? You can speculate on how he did that, but even in his early videos, he's dripped out, right? He has very expensive things. But he says, I'm never going broke, but all of my things are gone. It's like, what does that even mean? Maybe by things, he's not referring to material things, but some other type of thing. Maybe, I don't know. That's interesting. I'll have to check out this song. I'm not flexing, baby, grinding for 10 years, though. I am Romeo. That's really interesting when you contrast that with Ever Since, which we'll get to. Where he says, I feel like Romeo. And Romeo is And actually in this song, he doesn't even say he feels like Romeo. He says, I am Romeo. I am the one who had a lover. If you think about the Romeo and Juliet story, like we talked about before, he had a lover, she killed himself, or she pretended to kill himself. He thought that she actually did kill herself. He kills himself, and then she wakes up and finds that he killed herself because he thought she killed herself, and then she kills herself. It's crazy. Shakespeare, the GOAT in a lot of ways. But that's who Blade is referring to. The works of one of the most famous literary authors, playmakers of all time, right? I'm smoking dope, come from Mexico, never growing broke when all my things are gone. Okay. So Blade loves to do this where he'll take an idea and then he'll just contradict it like in the same thing. But it makes sense, right? Like gains and losses. It's like, how could a gain and a loss like even be related in any way? Well, they're interconnected. Sometimes we lose a bunch of things but sometimes we lose friends, gain new friends. We lose out on money that we have in the moment to invest it and make gains later, yada yada. Everything can go though. For Blade, he just doesn't want to deal he doesn't want to deal with the baggage that comes with good and bad, right? So he just wants to get rid of everything, the good and the bad. He wants to be the king of nothing, right? And so this is an interesting idea. Next song is apparently Dior F/W. I'll show you. This is just from Genius's website. I am a Drain head and I've listened to almost every single song, but some of these are just like really, really niche. Especially with Rainworld never being released, right? So it just says Subaru slowed and unlovable snippet. I guess I can't really talk about that. I already talked about Subaru. And I believe and we talked about Unlovable as well. So Dior is just Unlovable and Subaru mixed together. So I guess the analysis that I did just holds steady for that one. Let's move on to Crushed, an amazing song. Produced by White Armor, right? And a lot of people, if you think about White Armor, Shield Gang, White Armor, the producer, has his own protection embedded in his name. It's pretty cool. And he's one of the greatest producers of all time. Don't at me. Skulls crushed, bones crushed, life's crushed, I'm iced up. Okay, so I don't know, I'm thinking about because obviously he's talking about his soul getting crushed, right? That's why he says in Into Dust, my soul's getting crushed. But I'm just thinking of I'm thinking of crushed soda. I don't know if that's what he was mainly thinking about, but when he says life's crushed, I'm iced up, I'm thinking of you get like a can of Crush, and then you get like a glass, with ice in it, and you pour it in. So there's like double entendres there to explore. But if you're just looking at it literally, skull crushed, bones crushed, life crushed, I'm iced up. So again, this is one time where it's two conflicting ideas, right? If you were iced up and you were made of ice, you would be fully broken down and crushed up. You wouldn't be. I'm just thinking of like an ice sculpture. But when he's talking about ice, he means multiple things, right? He means, one, his jewelry that he's wearing, his drip, iced up. And then it's also like I'm frozen, like I don't know what to do, with all the stimuli that's entering my life right now. All the drama, the relationships, the transactions, And so he's just frozen. He's doing nothing, right? He's iced up. But he lights up his lighter, smokes some of the cabbage, and it says lights up a new cycle. And then he's ready to go. So Blade, I think, goes through these ups and downs, where he gets frozen and stuck and he can't move, and he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to react to all the drama and everything that's going around him. But then, flicks his lighter and he's ready to go. He's moving again. And then a new realization hits, boom, he's frozen. Okay, light up the lighter. Now he's floating again. Maybe kind of a stretch. Also, this channel, it's, I guess it's kind of selfish, but this channel is just mainly for me to make sure I have my ideas or what I would say, If someone wanted to ask me, like, well, why do you think Drain Gang's important? I'll be like, yep, I have hours and hours upon content of me just analyzing Drain Gang, Blade. But only Blade. I mean, that would be like a whole nother thing to just look at Echo 2K and look at Thai Boy and look at Young Lean. I'm mainly focusing on Blade and the songs where Blade features someone else. Anyways. I'm gonna make the runtime go a little longer by sitting up. Oh. Changing perspectives. There we go. Oh, I could not lean. Not lean. Anyways. Ignited, I'll show you my fire. Sound of the blade, you'll fade into iron. Shield Gang united, our Shield Gang alliance. So, Shield Gang is not just one person, and it's not just one idea, and it's not just one way of being spiritual. It's a whole thing. It's a movement, right? And so, that's why he talks about Shield Gang alliance. Anyone who agrees with viewing the world in this way, or vibes with putting this filter on the world, And by filter, I just mean, like, everything's an allegory, It's not your personal baggage, emotional baggage. It's called trash, It's not a place where you're free from, rules and regulations. It's an island. It's a trash island, It's not like you look up at the sun and you see, a bright glowing star. You see a red light, okay? And so all of this imagery that Blade uses, like, he mixes them in, and it's why it can be very jarring if you're just starting to get into Blade, because it's not just that the lyrics are jarring and contradictory feeling, it's that the auto-tune's jarring, and it's got bass and 808s, and it turns a lot of people off instantaneously, and I think Blade knows that, right? Blade knows that. I stay with the Titans, He says he's on the crest. He's up there with the gods, in terms of understanding both sides, the light and the dark, the yin and the yang, right? Blade City, he calls himself Green Goblin, which is kind of funny because, I don't know much about the Spider-Man lore, but from what I saw in the Sam Raimi movie, he was actually trying to do good initially, the Green Goblin, but then the evil kind of warped him into the villain that we see now, or that we saw then. But he's a Green Goblin, but he's got a North Face backpack, okay? He's ready for the winter that's going to come. In Game of Thrones, they say winter is coming, and it always seems like it's perpetually coming. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Winter only happens once a year, but he's talking about the metaphorical winter, where we freeze and we, instead of handling life's problems, we end up doing nothing, and then things get worse, right? Read from a life book, See How I Can't Love. Life book, to me, he's either talking about like a self-help book, but It's probably the Bible. You know, in one of his songs in Cold Visions, he's like, keep a Bible by my nightstand. It's probably what he's starting to refer to. Okay. We have two more. Beautiful, which I'm not sure if I've heard. But let's look at the lyrics anyway. I really should have done a little bit more research into Rainworld. Because I didn't know that people had an unofficial track list or whatever. I just thought all these songs were singles. So I ultimately thought I didn't have to cover them because I was just going to focus on his albums and released and stuff like that. But we're going through his entire discography anyways. Beautiful. I've got no friends like a god amongst men. So this is interesting. It's like, you know, when he says he has no friends, it's like, well, what do you mean? He's got Echo, he's got, Tie Boy, like these are his friends, right? And they are, but when he says like I've got no friends, he means like on a meta level, like everyone who would meet him who aren't Echo or Tie Boy are kind of like putting him on this pedestal. They're like, oh look, Drain Gang, oh he knows so much, blah blah blah. So he's saying I don't really have any real friends, I don't have people on my level. You've got no chance, Shield Gang defend. No future, no past, no end. I feel like a car, but it got no engine, right? That goes back to nothing. He's in the car and he cannot move. He cannot progress forward on the path towards the light, but he also can't regress backwards towards the dark. He just is stuck. He's frozen, right? And that's a motif that he brings up several times. White walls, white floor, roof, I blend in. Wearing stealth gear. Again, he's making the connection between what he's wearing on the outside is really showing what he is on the inside, right? I can be your black cloud, let you get that lightning, okay? So normally when you just think about clouds, you think happy, peaceful, but when Blade mentions a cloud, it's a black cloud, and the problem with black clouds is they have the potential for shooting down lightning. But he says, I can be your black cloud, which means like, it's kind of a trap, it's like, oh, I'll let this cloud in, he's a little dark, but he's happy, but then bzz, lightning comes out. And that's what Blade wants to do. He wants to zap you with his message, okay? But it's kind of like a Trojan horse in some senses, you get into Blade because he raps about cool stuff. He raps about drugs, he raps about wearing cool clothing, hanging with his team, but then, so you bring that black cloud along, and then all of a sudden, he hits you with the lightning. He starts being in your mind, as he says in Exeter, right? Blade, butterfly, knife, take you of the life. So if I just look at a butterfly knife, okay, that's what they look like. They are double-edged, like a blade, there's a good and bad. So there's a loss, there's a gain, right? Anyways, where I'm at right now is so beautiful, so beautiful. Where I'm at right now is so beautiful, so beautiful. So he's saying he's plunged in the darkness really far. But because he plunged in the darkness so far, he's able to experience the light in such a brighter way, And that's why, even though he says I have no friends, I'm like a car with no engine, I could be a black cloud, I'm going to take your life with a double-edged sword, but it's beautiful where he's at, He wouldn't have it any other way. And that's the interesting thing about traveling through the darkness is it makes you appreciate the light so much more, in my opinion. Okay, and the last is Blade Commercial Part 1.0, which Genius is telling me is an instrumental. So I guess we'll end it there. Peace.